So yesterday we talked about what is run instruction, right? So as a best practice, we also, you know, said that so whenever you have multiple run instructions, you need to club them together into a single line. Okay. And one more thing here we need to remember. So whenever we are running run instruction, so what exactly is happening and when this run instruction is getting executed? So during the build time of the container, right? Not the runtime of the container. Right, guys?
Yeah, it's a build time of the image. That's right.
Okay. So as a best practice, what you need to do is whenever you're running something, okay. So let's say I installed curl and in the next statement, I might use that curl. Okay. And once you're done with the curl, try to remove it. Okay. So anything which is not required, you need to remove it. Okay. So we will see about multi-stage builds where this won't be a problem. But if you're using a single stage Docker file, and whenever you're downloading something, if you can remove it, okay, just remove it. And also when you try to install something using package managers like apt yum, right? So once you try to download, okay, so they will also try to maintain some cache in some location. Okay, so try to remove that cache folder, I mean try to delete it. And also when you try to install something, make sure that the unnecessary dependencies are not downloaded along with the main dependency. Okay, so I'll talk about that run instruction and how do you remove that cache, in the coming sessions. Okay, so that is one thing. Now coming to the env in your Docker file. So what is this env? So these are environment variables. Okay, and these environment variables are available to your image all the time. Like when you set during the container build stage, I mean image build stage, these environment variables are available during the runtime stage. It is just like you're setting an environment variable permanently. Okay, so the syntax is env key space value or key equal to value. So always remember whenever you're trying to put a value, uh, if that has a space, always try to quote it. Okay, put that in the double quotes. And you can just create an environment variable without any default value, or you can create an environment variable with some value. It is entirely up to you. Okay, so let's say your image automatically reads some environment variables. Let's say you have Apache, so that automatically reads some environment variables. Okay, so you can set those environment variables in the Docker file itself. So here Apache expects an environment variable run as user. I mean run Apache run user that is set to www-data. Okay, so if you don't set it, Apache might try to take root as the user. Got it? So you will get this information from the Docker Hub page. If you search for Apache, if they are expecting some environment variables, you need to provide them like this. Okay. And these environment variables, you can replace them when you try to run the container. We already seen this, right? So Docker run -e, I can provide environment variables, any number of environment variables. So if I already have an environment variable, this which is set to www-data in the image, I can override it using -e. Same key, I can use a different value here. So it will replace the default ones. Got it, guys?
Yeah, you said
And
to
remember,
use
these environment variables will be injected into your image. Okay, it is up to the container to use or not. Okay, so let's say I have Python application. Okay, so that Python application also has access to this system environment variables, which we already seen. So it is up to the Python and it is up to the requirement whether you want to read that environment variable or not. Okay.
uh, hello Vikram.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. No, no. Did you say that we have to put equal to and within quotes?
Yeah.
I
Correct.
mean, why is that? Because in the top you have shown us an example like that, but in the bottom it is like without equal to, right? So
Where?
it will work both the way. I mean,
Here,
on the same, yeah, foo bar, foo
yeah,
slash
because
bar,
this is
yeah.
a single word. It doesn't have any space between it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, if it is a
Because it's
space
a,
means it gets confused, like, so which one, whether you are
okay.
assigning two and values to a single key, it will assume like that.
Okay, understood. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
And also, let's say, you want to give these environment variables through argument, build arguments, it is also possible. Okay. So for example, here, I can simply say arg x. Okay. Arg x equal to, let's say, I'll say 5. And then env, let's say, y. So instead of hard coding this, what I'll do is I'll set to $x. Okay. Now what will happen is, so x by default argument is set to 5, y also will become 5. Now when I try to build the container, if I just pass build arg x, if it is set to 10, now arg is set to 10, your y is also set to 10. Okay. So you can also use arguments and environments together as well. Okay. So whatever argument that you will have, you can just give it as an environment variable. Again, as I said, it all depends upon the requirement. Okay. So we already seen this environment variable, so I'm not going to show the example. Now coming to the
Vikram,
work.
just sorry to interrupt.
Mm.
Like there is a variable which don't has a key. Then how we'll call that variable?
Where?
In back, there is environment variable without key, right? No default value.
Yeah, no
Even
default
if-
value.
Then how
Hmm.
we'll call that without key?
No, so if there is no value, you need to assign it during the runtime.
No, it don't has a key, right? Key
This
equal to
is the
value.
key.
Okay.
There is no value.
Value. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
So value you can provide if your application is expecting. And that's why. So never give or read something which doesn't have any default value.
Okay.
Okay, because the user may not provide that value. In that case, it should assume some value and continue with the process.
Okay.
Okay. So we already talked about work DAR. Okay. And coming to the expose. So this is one interview question that everyone will ask. So what is the use of expose instruction? Okay. So let's say I'm trying to build an application, containerize a Python based application. So I've written the Docker file, like I copied my file. Okay. And then I have CMD that will start my application. Okay. But if it is a web application, it should start listening on some port number. Let's say I'm trying to create an Nginx and the Nginx listens on 80. Okay. So here Nginx, even if you don't mention that it listens on 80, it will listen on 80 because the process itself is configured in such a way that it will start to listen on 80. Okay. But if I put expose 80 here, this doesn't mean that your application or Nginx or whatever it is modified to use 80. It is not like this. Expose is just for the documentation. Okay. If I simply say expose 8080, it doesn't mean that your Nginx will go and listen on 8080. Okay. So where exactly you need to make the change in order for the Nginx to listen on 8080? So in nginx.conf file. Got it? Clear, guys?
Yes.
Okay, if my application will listen on 8080, it will listen on 8080 even if I don't mention expose 8080. So why I'm writing expose 8080 is, it is, so when someone runs your container image, they should know on what port number your application is running on. So this serves like a documentation for them that they need to use 8080 for their Docker run command. If I make it to 8080, it doesn't mean that my container will start to listen on 8088. It won't work like that. Okay. You can also mention like on what protocol, like TCP or UDP, that your application is listening on. Okay. Like this. Understood, guys? Again, I'm saying it won't change your port. It is just for the documentation so that when someone trying to create a container using your image, they will use proper port by looking at this. So my another question is, people won't have access to this Docker file, right? So how will they know whether your application is listening on 80, 81 or 80? Correct?
Inspect. Okay.
So how do they know that expose is set to 80, 81?
Docker inspect.
Yes, so they have to inspect the image and then they'll get to know this expose. So if you once you build your image and if you inspect it, you will get all this information in the inspect command. Clear? Understood? Yes.
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 Yeah. Now coming to the volume. So volume again, it's a normal instruction only. So what this will do is, so whenever I put volume /app, it is just going to create that /app folder. Okay, nothing else. Okay, so but if I just use workdir/app, what is the meaning of this is, so it will create /app and it will also cd into /app. But what volume will just create that particular directory. So the reason why it is required is whenever you're trying to mount a volume into some location, let's say /app of the container. If /app is not available, it will fail. Okay, that's the reason why whenever you're trying to build a container image, okay, if you need any volume mapping, okay, and if it is not standard directory, let's say if I try to mount it on /temp would be there. But if I'm trying to mount on /app, it may not be there. So try to use volume in your Docker file so that when the image is getting created, so you will have /app. Of course, you can also do run mkdir my volume or my app, some /app like this. It will also work, but there is default command like volume. You can either put it like this or you can put it in the executable format like this. Okay. So usually this is called as a shell form and this is called as an executable form. You can do, you can use both of these. Okay. So I think I should also start showing volume, right? Okay. Yeah, so you can use like this, or it is mkdir. So that is also there. Okay, so that is volume. Now this is really important. So the next few commands like CMD, entry point are important. So what is CMD? So CMD and entry point are the default commands to be executed when the container is started. Okay, so I containerized my application. Okay, but which command I use to run it? Because without a process, container would fail. That there should be a continuously running process. So using CMD, you can set a default process. The default process can be anything. It can be starting your application, or it can be printing the version of a particular application and then exiting, or it can be a sleep command. It is up to you. Okay. Got it, guys? So for example, let's go back to our earlier example, which we generated this Python Docker file. Okay, so here what we are doing, we have taken a base image and then we have set some environment variables which are required by Python. Okay, and then we have set the work dir. We copied all the files. So the files would be usually your binary files only. Okay, so dot means it will copy the entire context. Okay, but going forward, we'll see how to selectively copy files and take the help of multi-stage builds and all. Okay. So for now, just remember copying, we are trying to copy everything. So which will also have your main file. Okay. And using CMD, I can start the application. If you see, I'm using Python main.py. So main.py is my main application file. And then I'm giving it as an input to the Python interpreter. So this will just start my application. Okay. Uh, Again, let's say for Java, it is usually Java-jar and the name of the jar file. Okay, something like this. Got it? And of course, multiple CMDs are not supported. You can see the error it says. So there can be only one CMD instruction. If you have multiple, so the last one is going to be considered. Okay, I'll talk about that again. So CMD is used to set the default, or the starting process of the container. And this expose is nothing but a documentation. So it says that my Python application is listening on 5,000. Okay, if I make it to 8,000, it won't change the port, because that 5,000 is what it is internally coded while writing the application. So this is CMD. Okay. Yeah. So CMD usually takes two forms. So one is the shell form and the other is the executable form. Okay. Yeah. So if I say CMD set to sleep 5, okay, so this is a shell form. Okay. This is not in the array. That's why it is shell form. And if you put the, now let me just copy paste this. Okay. So if I put it in the shell form, in the executable form, it looks like this. But always make sure that whenever you're trying to invoke any binary, okay, because this is executable, or you can say it as a binary form. Okay. So you need to invoke the binary directly. Okay. So you have bin, which will be in the, you have sleep, which will be in the bin. So it will be bin sleep, comma 5. So you're just saying sleep for 5 seconds. So this becomes your default instruction. Okay. Similarly, if I have to, um, just start a Java application. So it is Java -jar, right? Like this. Got it? Clear, guys? Okay. Now, one question that usually we ask in the interviews, that is, what is the difference between run and CMD or entry point?
Run is a build command, time command, and CMD is the runtime command.
Yeah. So CMD or entry point won't get executed when you're running Docker build command. Okay. Run will be executed during Docker build. Similarly, during Docker run instructions won't be executed. CMD instructions will be executed. Got it? Any confusion?
Vikram, hello.
Yes, please.
So, what is the advantage of using the executable form if I have
No,
already...
I'll come to it. I'll come to it.
Okay.
I have a separate example. I'll just 5-10 minutes. I'll come to it. Okay. Now the other question is, okay, I have a CMD, probably set to, it can be any form. It can be executable form or it can be shell form. So I have the CMD instruction. Okay. That is ping localhost. I have containerized my application and I'm calling this application as ping test 1.0. Okay. Now I'm not interested in pinging the localhost. I want to ping an IP address. Okay. So how do I run this container but ping a different IP address? Okay. So let's assume I'm running it. I'm just naming the container as something like test, and I would use this image like this. But what this will do is this is going to run the default ping localhost. Okay, so how do I change it to ping some IP address? Okay, so after the image, whatever you put, right? Okay, this becomes, the entire thing becomes the replacement for CMD. Okay, clear, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so remember, because we may not repeat it again. So that is how you change the CMD. Now coming to the entry point is also similar to CMD. Okay, so it also takes the same form, shell or executable. So which means if this is a starting command, either I can put CMD or entry point. Okay, I can also give entry point and this will also serve as the default command. But the thing here is, so if I have an entry point, okay, and if I have to change the entry point, so many people, like 99 out of 100, they simply say that entry point cannot be replaced once it is set. So once it is set and the image is built, when you're running the container, you can't change it. It's completely wrong. Okay. The reason is, if you check the Docker run command or Docker container run, and if I just check the help documentation, you will see it. Hyphen entry point E. See here, right? It says override the default entry point. Clear, guys? Okay, but entry point, you can't put the flag here. Okay, because this is a flag, it should be before your image or after your Docker run. I mean, the same way that you put name, environment variables, networks and all. So you need to put the entry point, and this entry point, I can simply replace the default entry point. So I'll say bin ping some IP address like this. Okay.
With
Clear, guys?
CMD, overwritten is not possible, it is.
Sorry.
With CMD, the overriding of the existing command, right? Like overwriting the starting process, right? So that won't be possible, is it?
It is
Overwriting.
possible. We just saw that.
Okay, like the main difference between CMD and entry point would be like what?
No, I'll come to it. I didn't come to that point yet. So you're saying CMD cannot be overridden, but this is how you override.
Okay, okay.
Okay, guys, you're getting confused or what? Is it clear to others?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, so this is CMD replacement. For entry point replacement, I need to use a flag. Okay, and I have to put it like this. Okay. So if you have any confusion, please stop me, no problem. I'll explain it once again.
Ikram, so for to override the entry point, we need to provide explicitly, right?
Yeah,
That,
correct.
flag. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the reason probably many are not aware of this, but it is there. Okay. So when to use and when to use CMD and when to use entry point. See, there is no thing like you should definitely use CMD or definitely use entry point. Either use CMD or use entry point, you can use both combinedly. Okay. So generally people will use entry point. Okay. Because if they have to override the entry point, they should use this special flag. Okay. And if the entry point is set something like this, people will understand that this is a standard instruction and it should not be replaced. Okay. Let's say I'm Dockerizing an application within my organization. So in those cases, my entry point, I should not replace it because it should start a standard process all the time. So in this case, they might go for entry point. If they put CMD, so whatever CMD command that you write after the image name, it becomes CMD. Okay. So you can use both. But I mean, either use CMD or use entry point, but you can also use them together. Okay, so how do you use them together is, so if I want to configure the arguments for my, the application, let's say, see, ping is my application and localhost is just serving like an argument for it. Okay, so here I just cannot change localhost only if I use entry point or CMD. Okay, I need to change the complete instruction just like this. Okay, if I simply say entry point is set to 8.8.8, it doesn't mean that it will go and replace this 8.8.8. It is going to replace this whole thing itself. Right? Guys,
Right.
Yes.
it doesn't make
Yes, we
sense.
can.
Okay, so that's the reason what we will do is we'll use CMD and entry point together. So when you use together, so this CMD serves like an argument. So which means So I'll cut this CMD instruction like this. Okay, and I'll set the entry point like this. So your final instructions will be entry point plus CMD. Okay. Okay. So the final instruction is still ping localhost because you have set both CMD and entry point. Okay. But with the advantage of breaking the final instruction into CMD and entry point is, let's say this localhost is something which I wanted to change. Okay. Instead of localhost, I need to change like 1.2.3.4. Right? So what will I do if I have to change the CMD? Simply I'll pass that a CMD value here. Okay. Then your command is ping 8.8.8.8. Clear, guys?
Yes, Vikram.
Okay, so in order to change this CMD like this, like if you see this CMD is now acting like an argument to this entry point. Okay, so in case if I have to change just the entry point, I would use -- entry point and change it. If I have to change the complete instruction, okay, so now I don't want to use ping localhost. I wanted to use sleep 3000. Okay, so how do I write? So sleep is an entry point replacement. Okay, so entry point, I'll set it to sleep. And CMD is localhost, but I wanted to change it to 3000. So use this. So now your entry point and CMD both changed. So your final command will be sleep 3000. Got it?
Yes, Vikram.
Okay. And if I go back to our previous discussion, like this Docker file. So if you see, this is a shell form. This is not an executable form. Okay, if it is an executable form, I should use this array format. Okay, but what is this executable form and what is this shell form? Why can't I use shell form? Okay, so for this, I'll just take this example. I'll try to create a new Docker file. Okay, I'll just delete all these things.
Mummy.
Okay, I'll say Ubuntu, and so Ubuntu already has which command I'm trying to prove, ping localhost. Okay, or else is there any other command that I can use? It's not there. Okay, we'll go for this ping only. Okay, CMD, I'll just say ping localhost. Okay, clear, guys?
Yes, Vikram.
Okay, I'll try to build it. So I'll say Docker build. I'll tag it. I'll say shell form, something like this, and then I'll just try to build it.
Shell form is the name of the image, right?
Yeah, I'm just taking that. Yes, correct. Without any tag. The tag will be latest.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'll run it. If you say Docker run in the daemon mode, and the name of the container is, let's say, shell, and the image name is shell form latest. Okay, and then do Docker ps. Let me just check the logs once. Oh, ping not found. Okay. So why did I use this? Okay, so it is Ubuntu trusty. So in this tag, I think I have ping. Okay. So let me delete this container. Try to rebuild it again. Okay, and run it. So Docker ps. Okay, it's running. Okay, you can also see how the command got converted. So it is, if I just say ping localhost, it is sending it to a bash process, right? If I do docker top and the ID of the container, okay, see how many processes are there here? How many processes are there, guys?
Two.
2 processes. But how many processes I just started?
One.
1. So here bash is getting started as an extra process. Okay, that is one thing. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll remove this container. So this time I'll convert this into executable format. Okay, so I'll simply put. So I'll try to invoke the ping, which is there in this path. Okay, these are pretty standard. Otherwise, if you want to know this path, you can just create a container from the normal image engine, log in into the container and see where exactly ping is available. Okay. So I just converted this into executable format. And now I'll try to build it again. So this time I'll say exec form. Okay. Try to run it. Exec form. You just name the container. It's not required. Now do docker ps. Okay. You can see it is in the executable format. So let's see what all processes that this container runs. Okay. See how many processes it is running?
1.
It is running only one process, which is the required process, right? So that's the reason why we should go for executable format. Okay. So if you go to shell format, unnecessarily, a shell will be created and inside that your commands will be executed. Okay. And also, what is the other disadvantage of, using shell form is, so if I try to stop or kill a process or kill a container, okay, so what will happen is, so the starting process, basically when you're trying to stop or kill a container, you're just sending those signals to the PID1 process. Okay. So if PID1 is your main application process, it gets exited. But if it is a shell, so what will happen is any, processes that are started by shell, so they won't be properly exited. Okay. They won't be properly killed. That's the reason why you should not use shell as the starting process. You should always start your main application with the PID of 1. Okay. Clear, guys?
Yes, Vikram.
And we have health checks.
Vikram?
Okay. Yes.
One question. So you said like here extra shell is creating as a process, right? So shell is generally like comes within the OS, right? Again, why it starts as a process for it's default for any container, like generally like if I start just Nginx, a shell gets created and then the
No, it depends upon how you're writing the CMD or entry point. So in a system also, I have shell, but I can open multiple terminals, right? For
Yes.
running parallel processes. Similarly, for running a command, it will initiate a shell process and inside the shell, it will execute it. In that form, shell form.
Okay.
Okay. And the one more thing is shell may not be available in all the images.
Okay. And the type of shell depends upon the OS. It can be SH or bash, anything.
Yeah, it depends upon how, correct, how the image is built. So whether they have a shell or they do not have a shell. Like for example, Google distillers images, they don't have the shell. Okay. So for example, so let me take Google distillers images. I'll just take a Python based distillers image. Okay. So here I have tags like latest, non-root, debug, debug non-root. Okay. So I'm No, I don't want to take the debug tag. Let me just take the latest tag. Okay. I'll try to run it. I'll say simply Docker run -rm. I want to remove this. See here. I know there will be some process inside this image that will start, but I'll try to override it using sh or bash. Okay. So first the image gets pulled and then we'll see whether bash is there or not. Okay, you can see here, bash is not there. Right? Correct, guys?
Right.
Let me see if sh is there or not. See, sh is also not. So let's see if cat is there. It is also not there. It is also not there. Let's see if ls is there or not. See, nothing is there inside it. But if I try to see if Python 3 binary is there or not, Python 3 is not there. Let's see Python is there or not. No such file or directory. Okay, this is, it is a file or directory, but if I just say user bin Python, okay, it might be expecting the format in a different way. But if I, let's say, if I
do this?
Yeah, I'm trying to do. Okay, so the image got created, but it will fail. Yeah, it failed because I think it is expecting, this is just a, base, right? So I need to have a file, a Python file. So let me just inspect it and see what is a CMD. I think it will just run Python and leave. Then I need to see here. The entry point is this user bin Python 3.11. Okay. So which means there won't be any CMD. CMD should be anything like the name of the file. Since there are no files available, currently in this. Okay, so what I can do is, yeah, this main.py file is there, but it needs to download some dependencies. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me simply say app.py and just print hello. Okay. And then while running this Docker run -rm, I will also mount this current directories app.py file into the container file system like app.py. So once it is there, okay, and yes,
Okay, sorry, you are copying this file into one directory, right?
yeah, correct.
Then
In
it has to
root,
be app or it has to be app.py inside container.
it can be anything. You
Anything.
can rename it when you're copying.
Okay.
Okay. And since CMD's entry point is also already set to Python, it is expecting a CMD. So I'll try to give this file name as CND and see whether it will take or not. No such app.py we created, right? Okay. Because this is Windows, it is always going to be a problem. Or let me say /. Can't open program files gitapp.py.
Just now you clicked yes or no? It asked for
So
access.
it is taking a different location from my system. I think something like, okay, I'll do one thing. So do you have this system run? Because in Windows, this volume mapping is always a challenging thing for me. Linux means I can. Okay, so let me do the same thing. So app.py. Okay. And let me just copy the same thing here. See here, it is printing, right?
Right.
Okay. So you need to understand the image, like, what entry point they're giving, what CMD are using. Now entry point is already pointing to Python interpreter. So all I have to do is, as a CMD, I need to provide the file. Since I don't have the file, I created it locally and then mounted into / root location. And then I just called or gave that file name as a CMD.
These containers can't be logged in, right? No.
Yeah, these containers do not have any debugging enabled. I mean, they don't have any bash or sh. But if you want to try these images initially along with bash and all, so there is a tag called debug tag. Okay. So if you pull the debug tag, :debug, then you'll have debugging utilities. Okay. Then when you're trying to release it to the or use it in the production, just don't use the debug tag, just use the latest tag. Okay.
So
Just a sec.
Vikram,
Yeah.
so while trying to, so this will be minimal image, right? I mean, the size of this image will be so
Correct.
minimal because so we can use it as a base image. On top of that, whatever the tools necessary, we can install, right,
Install.
using run command,
Correct.
and we can use it, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And these images do not take the shell form because there is no shell. You should always go for executable form.
Vikram, can you just show the two processes which the shell created? I mean, on your terminal, which we created. Oh, one is shell. If you just scroll up on your Windows, I guess. Yeah, so here one process is actual local host, another is actual shell, right? Why the -c? I mean, it should be plain shell, right? Like both the
No, see, this is the syntax. -c serves like an argument,
right,
okay, to the shell.
right.
Okay, you can say it is like -c indicates the commands that you wanted to pass to sh.
Okay, so where is the process, like where it's mentioned like one is the shell started?
Here, see, this is the
Okay.
starting one. This means sh.
Okay.
See, so how do you identify, what is the main process, what is the child is? So if you see this local host, right, ping localhost. So look at the parent ID. What is parent ID? 1547.
Yes,
So
yes.
what is 1547? This is
Here.
the PID for bash.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is CMD entry point. So we
And
also
one
have
thing, Vikram,
Yeah.
like the CMD command in the digitalis image earlier when you showed, right? So it is coming as null, right? So in that case,
coming
in the
as
doc,
sorry,
coming as null,
yeah,
right?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that CMD command will be there in the Dockerfile of their Dockerfile in their
No,
doc.
that's the reason why it is null or none.
Okay. So it
Okay,
cannot
they
be.
expect you to pass it.
Okay. So in the command in the Dockerfile, CMD won't be there in that case.
So when you're taking that as a base image, you put CMD on top of it.
Okay. And based on the tags, can we know like what are the utilities it is being installed when we use the specific
You need to
tag?
check the documentation, or you need to personally clone. I mean, just download
Run
in
it
the.
and see.
They should have it. I think they should
So here
have
you
it. Otherwise,
mentioned debug, right? So in the debug tag, which utility we are going to use?
no,
I
that
think
you need to check.
below they are given debug images. Just below, just you scroll down.
Yeah, I seen it probably long back. They should give. So these are some of the examples that you can use. Debug images. Where?
Yeah, the debug images, which we just saw.
Mm. We're
Yeah, these.
talking about this.
Yes, hyphen debug. Colon debug. I mean,
Debug images, yeah, distillers images are lag shell. The debug provides a busy box shell. Okay,
Okay.
it is normal SH.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so
Nice.
now we have also health checks for the containers. So this mostly people won't use because health checks are now done with Kubernetes probes. Okay, so what these health checks will do is, it will see whether your container is healthy or not. Okay, so when I say healthy means there should be some process listening on something, or they should be running process all the time. Okay, so for this as a command, I can use curl and then just ping my container endpoint and then to see whether curl is getting the response or not. Okay, if it is giving the response, that is fine. Otherwise what will happen? It will simply throw a negative code. Okay, clear, guys? Understood?
this is a runtime command, right?
Yeah, this is a runtime command. CMD will actually, health check will actually run during the runtime. So for this, I have an example along with the other, I'll just show the Docker file. Okay. Probably I can also build it. So let me also build it. While building, let me just explain. Okay, because build will take some time. Okay, so I'm just containerizing this Docker file. Then I'll explain. So Docker build -t. So let's say I call it as test 1.0 image. Okay, so let it build in the background. So here what is happening is, I'm just including health check command. And if you look at my application, okay, so that application has, slash or slash health, which will basically respond with some information status up. So which means it is status 200. Okay, so my container, if it is giving me this response, if I just access it on slash or slash health, then it is a healthy container. Something is listening. And also my application is listening on port 5000. Okay, so if I query my container on port 5000 on slash or slash health endpoint, and if it is returning 200 as a response code, I consider my container to be healthy. Okay, so you take any application that is written in any language, so they will include some endpoint that will show you the status of your application. Someone will say status, someone will say health, some will say health plus Z added to the end. So it is up to them. Okay, so which endpoint they will give us so that we can know the status of the application and what response, it all depends upon them. Okay, so now using this information, we can write the health check. So how did I run the health? Where is this? How did I write the health check command is? See, health check has some configurations as well. Like when should I run the health check? When should I start? How many times I should repeat? What is the interval between two health checks? Okay. See, interval. Interval is set to, by default, it is 30 seconds, which means if I don't use this flag, it is default at 30 seconds. Interval means like one health check will be executed every 30 seconds. And timeout, let's say I started the health check command, and if the system is not responding for 30 seconds, that is a timeout. This is when the Docker considers that the container is not healthy. And start period, let's say when I start the container, I don't want health check to immediately run. Let's say my application might take 30 seconds to completely run inside the container or start inside the container. Then for running the initial health check, that's the first time. So I can use start period. Like if I set it to 30 seconds, only after the first 30 seconds, my first health check command is going to be executed. Okay, now start interval. It is 5 seconds. So what is the start interval? Start period, duration, and start interval. They didn't give. Okay, you can just go through the documentation. What is the difference between them? and retries. Let's say health check failed, due to timeout or if the container is not responding. Okay, then, I can decide when my container should be marked as unhealthy, like after how many retries. Okay, so if I set to default to 3, so 3 times it will wait. Like first time it failed, second time it failed, third time it failed. Then, your container will be marked as unhealthy. Okay. I don't know what is the difference between start period and start interval. So start interval is the time between health checks during the start period. Okay. And then start interval means that's the duration between 2 health checks. Okay. Now, what did I use as the health check? So interval is 1 minute, which means every 1 minute the health check is going to run. So timeout is 30 seconds. So once the health check command is initiated, it will wait for 30 seconds. Within that, if it is not getting any positive response from the container, so it will be marked as the first failure. And if it happens for 3 times, the container is going to be marked as unhealthy. Okay, so this is fine. You can write it in single line, but I broke it into multiple line using backslash. And what command I have to run? So I'm just running curl -f. Okay, I'm running it again as the local host. Okay, so this health check command will be executed internal to the container. That's why it is local host. I'm running the health check on 5000 port because, as I already said, my application is listening on 5000. And so where is the Dockerfile? And here /health because I have an health endpoint. Okay, so the meaning is it is going to reach this health endpoint on 5000 port. Okay, if it is able to get the response, that is fine. Otherwise, it will be marked as failure. It will wait for 3 times and then it will mark the container as failed. Okay, so now
So these health checks, we will be able to see it from the logs as well, is it?
yeah. So here my application is listening on 5000. Okay, you can see expose is set to 5000. That's for the information. And I'm running my image on host port 80. Okay. And then Docker PS. Okay. So for all the health checks, if you include health checks into the container, so you will see this health inside the status. Okay. And since I'm using port 80, okay, you can see on / it is status up, and /health, it's also the same thing. And there is another endpoint that I created in my application, which is details. So that will respond with the details of the container like hostname, IP, and the MAC address. So this is purely for the demo purposes. Okay. And now my, the container is healthy. Okay. So once you do Docker PS, after some time, okay. Okay. So I'll wait for some time. Okay. It will mark as health as we will see. Okay, until then we will talk about the other things. So that is health check. It is up to you to whether to use health checks here or if you're directly using it in Kubernetes. So the best thing is used to is to use Kubernetes probes. Okay. And we have on-build instruction. This is also common interview question that is asked. So what is this on-build instruction is, let's say if someone is using your image as the base image. Okay. So then whatever on-build instructions that you set inside your main image, so they will be executed when someone, uses your image as the base image. For example, so this is a parent Docker file. So that has some from instruction and work dir. Okay. So I copied requirements.txt. Okay. And then I install all the dependencies. So here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to customize or configure the image. Okay, let's say internally in my organization. So there are many projects that depends upon a common base. Okay, so I'm trying to create that base. Okay, so I just took from instruction, installed all the dependencies. And I also used on-build instructions. Okay, so on-build instructions are, similar to your normal instructions. So if you see this part, so these are like copy, run, normal Dockerfile instructions. But if you use on-build as the key, these instructions will not be executed when you try to build this. Okay, So what will happen is, so if I build this image and call it as parent latest, okay, and if I use that as the from instruction, okay, so when you try to build this image, all the on build instructions from the parent image will be executed here. So which means this Docker file, okay, so we'll have from instruction, and these two instructions after that CMD will be executed. Got it?
So after all the instructions in child Docker file,
No.
this
After the from instruction,
okay,
on build instructions, and then finally your remaining instructions.
okay.
Okay. If you see here, I'm just creating a base, but when someone uses it, I'm forcing them to copy everything from their local path into /app, which means they're also copying their application inside it. And I'm also saying that expose is set to 5000. Okay. So which means when this child file gets executed, all the files will be copied into it. Okay. Because I have copy dot and /app. It will add the expose instruction, and then it will simply start the CMD. Okay. So here I'm not doing anything here. I'm not trying to copy the application or setting the expose or anything like that, because these are being done by on build instructions coming from the parent Docker file. Clear, guys?
So Vikram, for this we need this app, right? I mean, app file has to be present.
Yeah. So it should be, if you see, I have this present inside my context. Okay. I can also show. Okay. So let's, close this help thing. Okay. Now if you see unhealthy, I think it failed. I don't know why it failed. That's fine. Okay, so let me remove that container, because that is an example that I have written, but that is how you use the health check. Okay, now coming to on build. Okay, so I have this as the context. Okay, so I have app.py. It is a simple application. So whatever we have seen before, that status up and all. Okay, and here I have the parent. So what this parent is doing is it is setting a base image. Okay, and then setting a work dir, copying this requirements.txt, and then installing it. Okay, and as a best practice, if you see, I'm also including some flags which are relevant to this package manager, so that will disable cache. So you need to also make sure that whenever you're running something, make sure that the cache is not enabled in order to further reduce the size of the image. Okay. And then as an on build instructions, whatever what I'm doing is I'm copying everything which is there in the context into /app, because the work dir is /app, and then on build expose is set to 5000. Okay. So if you look at the child image, it is very simple. Okay. So once you build this particular parent image as parent latest, I'm just taking it as the base image. And since parent has on build instructions like copy and expose. Okay, so when you try to build the child image, the app.py file and all these things will get copied. And then as a CMD, we are using Python app.py. So that application will be started. Okay. Clear, guys?
Yes, Vikram. Vikram, is this something new or it's already
It's already there. On build is already there, but
not?
mostly we will not have any use cases with that.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't use it. So anyways, I'm going to share this file so you can just try. I'm not going to try. because it will
Vikram,
take.
so let me tell one use case whether tell is that right or wrong. So we do have this parent image, right? Base image. So if you want to enforce the child content, that is the image, want to run with a specific user, instead of the
Yeah,
providing, we can provide
correct.
it in that
In the
so that
on-build instruction.
okay.
Yeah, but the problem is this user, when you try to use it in the other container images, right? So that one you will understand now. It may not be suitable for all the applications because
Okay.
that user creating a user is not difficult, but you need to set permissions for various folders. I'll come to it.
Okay.
But what I can use on build is, let's say I wanted to add some extra labels or use expose statements. Okay, so if I have to put some things those things I can use for on build with on build instruction. Okay, let's
Okay.
say if I'm asking someone to write the Docker file, they may not use proper labels because labels are necessary to identify few things, right? Like it serves like a metadata. Like mostly
Yeah.
people are not following it. So then what I can do is I can set them in on build. So anyone using my parent, it will be automatically added.
Okay.
Okay.
So is this on build makes the image bulkier? That is parent
Nothing.
image.
It is just like in the normal instruction. So it will add a layer.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Vikram, thanks.
Vikram, the same use case, I can without onboard also, like I will create a parent, and if the parent being used by the child, they will add the labels as well, right? Like
Parent is used by.
in the parent, I will not use onbuild. I will just use the labels or the copy app or expose. I will not use just onbuild. And the same parent will be used by child.
Yeah, that is also there. Correct.
Then why onbuild
Yeah,
in
but see here, what is this one? This parent here. Yeah, I can also add here, but this on build, if you want to add some other information like expose or something which I can't directly add it in the parent, in that case I have to use. Even if I directly put the label here, or obviously it will be added because it is coming from the parent.
right? Or to keep the parent only slim size.
It's not like that. See, it is again depending upon the requirements. See, if you don't see it fit, that's the reason why mostly people won't use it, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Now you have user. So by default, your run instruction, CMD, and entry point will be executed with the root user privileges inside your container. But running something with root user is not preferred. So using user instructions, I can decide so which user has these permissions to run CMD or entry point. Let's say if I say user app user, then what will happen is after this user instructions, whatever run command, CMD or entry point that you use, they all run with app user permission. Okay. Sometimes, the base images will come with two users. One will be root user and one will be non-root user. So again, you need to refer the documentation to see how many users are there. Okay. But you can also create your own user and then set permissions for your processes to run with that particular user. Okay, so it is better if I just show you with an example. Yeah, I think it is already here. I'll also show. See, why I'm saying it is complicated is, okay, so I'm just taking Ubuntu latest and then I'm installing Nginx here. Okay, I could have just taken Nginx image, but I wanted to show you some things. That's why I'm installing it from Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu latest, I'm trying to run apt-get update, install Nginx, and then as a best practice, if you see what I'm doing here, I'm trying to remove all the cache. Okay, got it, guys?
Yes, Vikram.
And also I'm running all these commands in a single run instruction. Okay, now look at if I have to add this user app user, okay, which should be available in the container. First, I need to create him. Okay, so how do I create? I could just use user add, or else what I can do is I can also create my own group and then add user to that group. Two ways are there. Okay, and as a best practice, instead of allowing the system to set the user ID and group ID, I can use my own user ID and group ID according to my requirement. I'll say 10,001 is user ID, 10,001 is the group ID. Okay, I'm just setting them as arguments. Now what I'll do is first I'll create a group called app user. Okay, and then I'm not letting system to decide the group ID. So what I did, -g group ID, which means a group called app user will be created with the group ID of 1000. Okay, now I'll create a user, okay, with this user ID, this group ID, and we all know. So whenever a user is created, a same a group will also be created, or if it is there, he will be added to that group, right?
Yeah.
Okay, or yeah, and here I'm using user add with user ID, group ID. I'm asking it not to create any home directory for him. So these are all user add command. And then as a shell, I'm setting a shell for him. Okay. In some cases, you can also ignore setting a shell for him. Okay. If I just go back to a previous, I think it got replaced. I think it got replaced. We changed it, I think.
I think
Let
you
me see if I
deleted.
do. I'll just do Control Z and it should be there. Okay. So if you look at this, so here they are setting the shell to no login, which means there is no shell. Got it? You can also disable password for him, extra information, set some shell to some path, and you can also say no create home. Okay, so this hyphen no create home is nothing but hyphen capital M, that whatever we have seen. Okay, so it is up to you how you create a user, whether he should have the home directory or access to the bash. It's up to you. Okay, then I created this app user. Okay, so now I have created this app user, so I can use app user. Okay, so my CMD, and one more thing, the reason why I said the app user here is, see, first I need to use run instruction to add this user, so that for doing this I need root privileges. That's why I've used run here. Okay, and also after this user app user, any CMD run or entry point will use that app user. But when I'm trying to run this, when I try to run this Nginx process, that process might fail because by default Nginx process and all are owned by root. Okay, if you try to run them as app user, obviously your program will fail, right? Correct? So that's the reason why what you have to do, you have to set the permissions for various folders. So where Nginx can use or operate. So here Nginx has access to varlog Nginx, /run, var run, varlib Nginx. So to all these folders, if you see, I'm changing the ownership. So I'm saying these files or folders are owned by app user now. Got it? Clear, guys?
Yeah, clear.
Then only I'm setting it to user app user. So after this, even if you run CMD, run or entry point, any of these three commands, they won't run as root user. They will run only as app user. If you try to use run apt install something after this user instructions, it might fail because usually apt requires the root privileges and I'm not giving app user those privileges. Got it? Okay, so this is how you use the user command. Okay. So where is this? So this is the Docker file that we have for the user. Okay, so I'll also show you what issue that I faced. Okay, so let me remove this /run from here and save it. So here the same thing. So I'm installing Nginx, adding user and group, and then changing the ownership of some files and folders, changing the user back to the app user I created, and then I'm trying to run that particular. Okay, so I'll say Docker build my Nginx. I'll just make it as my Nginx. Okay, so now it is created. So let me run it. So Docker run -d-p. It's Nginx. It listens on 8080, and the image name is my Nginx. Okay, and then do Docker ps. See, it failed. And if I just check the logs, Okay, you can see here it says /run nginx PID permission denied, because that user, whatever user that we are using, doesn't have. So that's the reason why I also added /run, when I try to build this container. Okay, so this is one issue that you face. Okay, it's not that um, you simply add this user statement and everything will run without any issues. Okay, so all the files or the binaries, okay, that your system uses, your container uses, should be also owned by this app user, then only it will run. Okay, now I ran the command again. Okay, so now this time it is successful. Okay, so let me access the local host. It's working. Got it, guys?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so that is
Similarly, we can control the commands which the user have used, right? If I have given him the login shell,
sorry, come again.
so if I just log into this Nginx right now, it will fall into Nginx user shell, right? Given the condition, if he has the home directory.
Yeah, correct.
And from that also, for any commands that user uses, I can control by sudo vers if required from the file itself.
Okay, so that is about the Docker files. Okay, so we are done with the Docker files, but still there are some optimizations. We have to see the best practices. We'll also containerize Go-based applications, Java-based applications. We have to see multi-stage builds, multi-platform builds, how to speed up the builds, how to parallelly build the images, multiple images at once. Okay, so there are many things that we have to see yet. Okay, so but that requires the knowledge of latest features of Docker. Okay,